Okay, let's get started. Good morning. My name is David Wellish, and I'll be the moderator for this morning's panel. It's delightful to be here with you this morning, and especially in such great company. I'll be doing introductions in 1 minute. I am the co-founder of the Latina Network and of the recently launched Veo, both of which I'll talk about in a second, to the extent that you're not familiar with us and with them. And I would also like to thank our panelists for being here with us this morning. You represent a diverse set of constituents from a multiple umbrella of brands, a mobile ad network, and a media company. So it'll be exciting to see the different perspectives. So to start us off and begin with introductions, starting with Victor. Victor Parada.
Good morning.
Victor is a Vice President of Ad Sales for Discovery US Hispanic, and in this role he oversees ad sales for Discovery's portfolio of Hispanic networks in the US, which includes Discovery en Español and Discovery Familia. He has led the portfolio's go-to-market strategy since 2005 and heads a talented team of executives across the country that adds value to the market with innovative solutions to meet clients' needs. So welcome, Victor, and thanks for joining us today. Jennifer Berglund. Welcome.
Thank you.
Jennifer serves as an interactive marketing manager here at General Mills. She's responsible for leading all digital efforts for Que Rica Vida, which is an owned media platform dedicated to reaching bicultural Latinas living in the US. Prior to General Mills, Jennifer worked for Barefoot Proximity, an interactive agency supporting Procter & Gamble's Homemade Simple business. She has also held both consumer and business-to-business marketing roles at 3M and holds a master's degree in integrated marketing communications from Northwestern University. And last but not least, Victor Kong. Victor is the president of Cisneros Interactive and Ads Mobile. In this role, he's responsible for establishing digital business strategies for all of Cisneros companies and launching new ventures in the digital world. He recently launched Red Más, one of the leading digital advertising networks in the US Hispanic and Latin American markets, through a combination of acquisitions and organic growth. He also created the largest mobile ad network in the region via the merger with Ads Mobile, which operated in Latin America in a US Hispanic-based mobile ad network founded by Cisneros in 2011. Prior to Cisneros, Victor was a vice president and general manager for CNN Radio Worldwide. Before then, vice president and managing director at MySpace, Latin America since 2007. And he also has worked at MTV, Networks Latin America, Terra, and McKinsey & Company. Victor earned a BA with distinctions in economics and international relations from Stanford University and an MBA with honors from the University of Chicago. Pretty undereducated guy. So, with that, you know, I was thinking about standing here in front of you this morning, and it was about 12 years ago when I was standing in front of an audience like this, although I would say you're much sexier than I remember that audience being the one then, and I was announcing the launch at the time of the first bilingual internet service by the name of AOL Latino. I'm curious, raise your hand if you were working in the space then, and if you remember what was going on then. And you know, it was thank you. It was an interesting time. And I remember very vividly talking about bridging the digital divide and the internet being the future of most things. And today, you know, as I look back, I think we were almost right, but not entirely. Because it is so clear today that the real future, the digital disruptor, is nothing but this, the smartphone. And so I want to welcome you to this incredible new mobile era I am very excited to be here today to have our panelists address the present and the future, the role of the mobile phone, which we're going to call it as a hymn, and in the context of Latina consumers, which we'll relate to as her, as you will see in a video in a second. Let me tell you how we will spend the next 45 minutes together. We will spend a minute on Latinum, a short video about insights that we learned from spending time with Latinas smartphone super users or Uber users, a quick word and a video on Veo. We'll get into the panel interactions and then Q&A. So it should be a really fun session. So a second on Latinum. For those of you who have not heard of us, we're a member-based advisory company whose mission is very simple. We drive to enhance our members' ability to drive profitable growth from the multicultural economy. And we do that in 4 ways: through actionable insights, business analytics, best practices or proven strategies, and consumer access. And we do that through shared cost technologies. What's more fun is that we work with almost 90 of the leading and most iconic brands in the country and therefore the world. They represent about 15, 16 industries, and our panelists are all dear members of the network, and we thank you for that support. So that's a little bit of us. Now let's see if we can make this work. And so here's the insights on the role of mobile phones for her.
Let's meet her in 2014. She's strong.
Tú sola puedes hacer muchas cosas. Puedo controlar todo esto.
She's entrepreneurial.
Pago las cuentas. A veces sabes que hay que llamar a los trabajadores, o hay que llamar a la gente, a los jefes.
She's more expressive.
Hay cosas que a veces no lo quieres decir, tú sabes, verbalmente, solo escribes y es como más fácil.
She's growing in confidence.
I tend to take a lot of pictures because I want to see progress.
Soy la secretaria de la casa.
She's advancing and improving herself.
Like I can even take classes on YouTube for hair coloring.
Me llegan revistas de craft, de recetas.
She's resourceful.
Veo los síntomas, me meto a MedWeb, lo reviso en el teléfono. Ya veo, digo, ay, pues es un síntoma así o es.
Her life is changing because she has a secret. She's having an affair with him.
Si lo fueras a describir como una persona, describe así luego.
He's powerful,
Divertido.
elegant,
Con mucho tiempo.
always around,
Que no para, que está siempre como trabajando todo el tiempo, de mañana, tarde y noche.
reliable, smart. He's a know-it-all and addictive. He makes her the CEO of her life.
Me meto, por ejemplo, a Amazon y hay veces que me muestra otros links de ofreciéndome el producto y entonces ya comparo y ya donde lo encuentre más barato no tiene que ser necesariamente Amazon.
Llevas el teléfono y no necesitas llevar el cupón, ya ellos mismos te lo escanean y ya.
It's rare if I send mail out now and I just pay online.
También lo uso para buscar las direcciones.
Me siento como más independiente. Sabes que no tengo que venir a la casa, chequear los emails.
She sometimes can't seem to pull away from his grasp.
El teléfono, sí sentía como que algo me faltaba.
Desesperada.
It created anxiety, first of all.
He helps her to reach her fullest potential.
I YouTube a lot of stuff.
Cuando tuve el Facebook fue cuando empezó. Que empiezas a ver anuncios en Facebook de websites así o te decían contesta esta encuesta y te puedes participar para esto, te puedes ganar esto. Entonces yo decía, bueno, si no puedo salir a trabajar, ¿y qué tal si gano?
I wanted to do like a fruit basket, but the theme was like beachy. So I learned how to cut up a watermelon and make it into like jaws.
He keeps her secure.
Is your credit card information and everything saved in your phone?
No, I don't save it. You can hit the icon to not save the password, just in case my phone is lost.
Cuando voy a pagar tengo que tener todo antes.
He's a great partner because it's always familia first.
So it's funny because she's way in Michoacan and I'm, sending her a text through Messenger to go check on my grandma.
Me ha acercado más a la familia. Pues antes, cuando no tenía teléfono, como te decía, no, o sea, yo no platicaba, no hablaba mucho con ellos, los que están en México. Pues entonces ahora hablo más con ellos.
Especialmente con los hijos,
Claro.
con los padres, con el esposo. A mí es importante, no puede estar todo el día texting y nunca oír la voz, ¿verdad?
When we're having dinner, there's no
Yes.
phones on the table.
Hemos ido a comer a restaurantes o algo, veo que todos los hijos están con el teléfono y no se me hace bien.
But like any relationship, she has to come first.
When I feel like I'm done up and I look pretty decent, I'll take a selfie and then I'll just head it out to Ibarra Hair Studio. In a way, I'm promoting it.
Me tomo yo misma fotos.
Cuéntame.
She's loyal to him in return.
Los juegos que tengo, como el Candy Crush, el Tetris que Saga, me relajan. Cuando estoy estresada, que ando corre, tomo 5 minutos y me pongo a jugar.
Tengo el Candy Crush, tengo otros juegos que el niño también me pide el teléfono y se lo doy y él baja también.
Siempre tengo muchas aplicaciones, pero te acabo de eliminar. I usually stay with like the big ones. If they're not big and they're not really known, I don't care for them until they get to like, oh my God, have you heard everybody's on it? Let's go on it. Then I'll go on it.
But here's the big question. How should marketers hone in on this relationship? You have to make a choice. Are you all business, the family guy, or romántico? Brands that try to be all things won't succeed. Remember, she's loyal, but you have a lot to live up to.
Is this surprising? Is it different from anybody in the audience? We live it every day, and it's here to stay, and it's going to be more and more immersive over time. So keep these insights in mind as we get to the panel, because they're very, very relevant as we get into the conversation. Just again, a word on Veo. So we leverage these insights. We leverage our member needs, which is sort of corporate America, and that's what we use to create this new mobile platform. And so, what is Veo? Veo is a new mobile app that lets US Latinos discover new things to love, experience more from their trusted brands, and save time and money through freebies, samples, promotions, and deals. In fact, there are deals and promotions and samples now, so at some point make sure that you download Veo and you can actually get some stuff and experience it. It's a really cool new innovation. So at the same time, it's a new channel for our members to reach, engage, and activate Latino consumers through trials, deals, and messages from the brands that consumers love. And so, quick 1-minute video. So what's really important is to understand how mobile is different and the capabilities that mobile has for consumers and for brands. And so with that, let's get started. So question 1, how has mobile technology changed the way you think about engaging the Latina consumer?
Sure. Thank you. Good morning. I guess from, as David said, I'm with Discovery Communications, and and we're a media company. We're known as a media company, but really at the very heart, Discovery is a content company. All the content that's on our brands, whether it's Discovery, whether it's TLC, Animal Planet, Investigation Discovery, Discovery en Español, Discovery Familia, so on and so forth, it's telling stories. And so the question for us, when technology changes, how does our storytelling, how does our content transcend, and how does it, how can the consumers consume it? How can they consume our content? So the challenge for us, it's a challenge and an opportunity. The challenge is our business is based on the television screen, but as technology evolves, it's less about the medium, it's just more about, just the screens are in every device. It's your mobile device, whether it's your phone or your tablet or your computer or your smart TV we were talking about earlier. So challenge and opportunity number one is how can you, distribute your content in all these different devices. That's part of what we're doing. But the mainstay of our business is really the television medium. We are very closely associated with the distributors of our content, which are satellite and cable providers. So we have to really address their needs and our needs. And one of the things that the challenge that the smartphone poses is the competition, because it's just another screen where the content can be. So does that interfere with the larger screen? That's something that we have to deal with. The opportunity, however, is a great marketing vehicle. It's a great way to engage our consumers in a conversation. A lot of what you see on Discovery is something that you want to talk to other people about. So the mobile technology and the mobile platform enables the use of social media. So Twitter and Facebook and Pinterest, and people, when we do, for instance, live events, like we did Nick Belinda live as he was walking across the Grand Canyon, on Twitter, it was huge. People were constantly engaged into what was happening in real time. So mobile is a opportunity, but it's also a challenge. It's an opportunity from a marketing standpoint. It's an opportunity to further distribute our content, but it's also a challenge because it becomes another screen in which we have to compete with other screens in distributing our content.
Great. So I will be honest with you. In my opinion, mobile is just another touch point, but obviously, as we saw in the video, it is incredibly powerful. This is a whole new way for us to engage and connect with the Latina consumer. And it is truly always on. It's always with her. So specifically, what we're seeing at Que Rica Vida on any given month, over 50% of our traffic to the website is coming from a mobile device. That's a big number. And so Que Rica Vida is, in fact, a content brand. And so how we're kind of working differently and what we're doing is we're really leveraging all of the analytics that we have available to us to understand how is she consuming content differently on the mobile device versus the laptop, desktop, where are the differences, where are the similarities. And we have, in fact, found some interesting things in terms of content performance. Things such as content topic or article length, even how something is titled or executed, lists versus slideshows. Those differences can help drive the performance of the content, consistent with the screen. And so what we're doing is we're really continuing to leverage these analytics on an ongoing basis from a segmented point of view to make sure that we're going to market with a mobile-first mindset when we're creating our content. And then along with that, really continuing to deliver a balanced mix of content that meets her different needs across devices. But again, like I said, if you think about this as just another touch point, I would really advise to, be successful in this space. It really goes back to the fundamentals, understanding your audience. Who is she? Where is she spending her time? What are her passions? What are her pain points? And really just having that foundational understanding. I can tell you for us, the Latina consumer, the Que Rica Vida audience, she's on mobile. So,
Great, thank you. Victor, do you want to be closer to the microphone? Victor,
I have it here.
Yes. Yeah, you got it, yeah. Thank you very much. You know, the mobile as a platform, it's pretty complex. There are apps, there's the mobile web. So the question is, what is the role of apps in your brands and also in the industry at large?
Well, what I've seen, and we've been helping brands connect to mobile consumers for the last 2-3 years. We've really sort of a little bit of pioneers in that space with Mobile. We've seen a lot of brands rush into creating apps, and I think my advice is, I mean, if you're a brand, think carefully about the utility of that app. I mean, it's not just not all brands need to have an app. An app has to entertain, inform, or be functional in some way. We did a survey recently on insurance, and 83% of our survey, people who responded to the survey, 83% of them said they did want an auto insurance app in Spanish. Obviously, I mean, that's very useful, right? You can file a claim when you have an accident right there on the spot and take pictures, etc. But I've also had experience with a lot of brands that want to, want to hire our services to get more downloads on the app. And when you look at the app, it's like, what is a consumer really going to do with that app? They're going to download it and probably never use it again. So my advice is, apps are really useful. They contain a lot of information about a consumer, but I mean, not all brands have to have an app.
So yeah, building off of that, because I do have mixed opinions on apps. Que Rica Vida does in fact have an app. We were actually pretty early to market in launching it. But about 2 years ago, we really relaunched our overall digital platform. And in doing so, revised our content strategy, took a much heavier approach to content, and really focusing on having a publishing and media mindset. And so in doing this, the foundation of our mobile strategy really became more about the mobile.com and making sure that when she's coming to our .com and consuming content, she has a seamless, positive experience across screen sizes, across devices. And so to help facilitate this, what we've done is built the site leveraging responsive design, which, simple explanation, basically allows us to use a single set of code to make sure that she has that consistent positive experience regardless of the screen size, regardless of the operating system, the device, and she can view our content, and she's not, zooming in, zooming out, trying to navigate around on the smaller screen. And so, to be honest with you, this is really foundational, but again, when you think about Que Rica Vida as a content brand, critically important to the space that we're playing in. We do benefit from a lot of organic and search traffic, so that was really important as well. To complement this, obviously we know that our Latina consumer is pretty heavy user of social, right? And many of those are app and mobile driven. So we do make sure that we have a strong presence within, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, just to make sure that, again, we're reaching her where she is. So then, I guess just kind of to round this out and answer your questions on apps, kind of building on what Victor said, I do believe that there is a role for apps, but if you're looking to play in this space, my advice would be to just make sure you have a really tight value proposition. What are you delivering to the consumer? What's the utility? What's going to first make her want to download your app, but then continue to use it over time? And honestly, I think this is an area where Veo has done a really nice job, actually. You do have that utility. You're delivering the Latina consumer value and, relevant information. And so, again, something like that, I think that there are instances where apps do make sense, but you just have to be really smart about how you do that.
I would just add, going back to the opportunity to market our content. We are also on Veo, and so people can see that as a great opportunity go into this platform and have our viewers sample content. So if we're thinking about a show, what do people think? Do they like it? Do they not? I think the app really enables us to do that sort of thing. It's more of a marketing tool, given our type of business, where it can serve as a great way to be a supplemental experience to what's on the larger screen, but also it can serve, we do have apps where there is video content that you can consume.
Thank you. Victor?
I just want to add up another point about apps. Another way of thinking about apps is, regardless whether you build one yourself or not, is using apps to reach using third-party apps to reach consumers. And obviously apps, I don't know if you're very familiar with the difference between mobile web and apps, but apps have a lot more information about the consumer, location, a lot of demographic data about the consumer that mobile web doesn't have. So some advertisers really just want to reach consumers through apps instead of mobile web. Our experience is actually in the US Hispanic market, there are not a lot of apps in Spanish. So maybe Veo found a niche here, and hopefully it will continue to grow, and it'd be another avenue for all the brands to reach consumers. But that's an important point, to understand how to market through apps versus mobile web.
And if you are looking for a Spanish app, Que Rica Vida is in Spanish.
Very good.
So you can download that after Veo.
Thank you. Thank you. It's interesting. We've learned a ton since our couple of months launch, and you're going to hear about Veo much more. What I would say is, one, it's expensive. It's expensive to scale. It's expensive to acquire. And so, the question is, so why do it? And I think to Victor's point, the engagement is so different. The fact that we now can be interacting on your operating system of the phone, it just gives you capabilities that are very, very different, from web, but there are trade-offs, as everybody is talking about. So it's now known that how you target on browser, I think it's been evolved over time, but targeting within mobile is a new frontier for marketers. Can you discuss and share with the room what some targeting techniques are that either have worked or that you're trying as we go?
Sure. Well, it's incredible. I mean, the way you can target in mobile is very different from the way you can target in internet. I think it's a lot better. So I'll just have some examples. We've always heard about mobile, and sort of the promise of mobile is that you're walking down the street, it's 12 o'clock, and you're playing on an app, and you get an ad from McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts, etc., and the store, and then you click on that, and it's click to map, and you basically realize that the store is 1 block away from you. That sort of was a promise, and we've heard about it. We've actually started doing pilot tests. We call it geofencing. So we're actually working with a grocery chain called Northgate, as well as Western Union, and we're really targeting people who are walking 1 mile, from 1 mile radius from that store, and having very, very targeted ad campaigns. So that's one way we can target, by location. Another way we can target is through demographic data for a client called Scrubbles, a cleaning products brand. We're targeting women who have already expressed an interest in cleaning products, so that's using behavioral data. And another thing that a lot of people don't use, but we've used for some clients, is targeting by carrier. So, for example, for an auto loan company, we've targeted people who are postpaid AT&T and Verizon clients. Those usually have good credit, and those are the clients that this auto company wanted to reach. If you want to reach a younger demographic, you can use Metro PCS, for example, right? Another way you can target on mobile is targeting by device. So another campaign we did one campaign we did for Sprint, and they were really pushing the Galaxy 4. So we basically target all the ads to Galaxy S3 users, right? So people who are familiar with a Galaxy phone and they just want to upgrade the phone. So you can really target by device. So all those are strategies, but you can really target by so many elements in mobile that I would encourage you to think about all the different ways you can do that.
Anything else?
I would like to add, so much of what makes a content provider like Discovery successful, Discovery en Español and Discovery Familia, we treasure the relationship that we have with our consumer. They come to us for entertainment. They also come to us for insight, inspiration. Our content is really very powerful, and there's a mutual respect in terms of the relationship that you have with your consumer. I'm sure you see that a lot with Que Rica Vida and your consumers as well. I think the challenge with a technology like the mobile device is that it's a personal device. It's yours. It's in your hand constantly. At what point does it become intrusive? At what point does it, it's gathering too much information about you? At what point, how many consumers want marketers to know exactly where they are and what they're doing? So it's a fine line, and it's really interesting for brands to have this trust, or consumers to have a trust in a brand. When we look at marketing ourselves, we always walk that fine line as to, are we being too intrusive? Because especially with this device, it's very personal. It's a personal space. So just one more challenge to consider.
Thank you. Do you feel like as an industry we've reached sort of best practices, or it's so early that we're just dipping our toes and exploring?
I think it's too early yet. I mean, we're still learning and exploring, as you say. We'll see where it takes us.
Which is a fantastic place to be, sort of this place of really exploration and innovation and learning as we all decide how to use the phones, what the boundaries are, what do we want as consumers, what do we not want. It's just being shaped on a daily basis. What about measurement? We came from the world of advertising in television that you could argue wasn't as measurable. Then we went into digital, which was incredibly measurable. I mean, per click, per everything. Where would you put mobile in that spectrum?
I mean, I think most of the measurements you have online, you have on mobile. You can definitely count clicks. Mobile, you have, for example, there are different alternatives too. Click to call. So then you can measure, how many people call your call center, and what's the response rate, what's the conversion. I mean, I think that there are different measurements. I think it depends on what your objectives are. But usually, I'd be surprised if you actually cannot find a measurement based on that objective. Usually, I think you can track quite a lot of things on mobile.
It reminds me, as Facebook emerged, I think we were sort of experiencing sort of very similar things, which is that everyone was there, that everyone was engaging. You couldn't really measure it, and now it's an unbelievable marketing platform. So at some point, I think there's a leap of faith to be made, and then you'll reap the measurement methodologies as the industry matures. And then the last question is, so there's this major gap between, from a consumer perspective, how much we use the phones and how much we consume content on phones, and the advertising that's taking place on phones. What do you think is going to happen, over time? Is that gap going to minimize? And if so, what's going to drive that minimization?
Well, I mean, there are some studies, right? eMarketer publishes some projections of mobile advertising, and it's growing. I mean, at least in Latin America and the US Hispanic market is growing like 30, 40, 60, 70% a year. And we're seeing that. I mean, we basically sell mobile advertising, and we're seeing sort of the growth quarter by quarter. No, I think it's going to grow a lot. I mean, as you said, a lot of people spend time on the phones. If you look at the share of I don't know, media time, minutes spent on the phone versus, share of advertising, it's minimal. So it's going to have to grow a lot.
Yeah, and I would just echo that. I think it's going to have to grow a lot, and I think it's going to have to grow quickly. I do believe the technology is still evolving.
Yeah.
But when you just look at the sheer numbers of usage, I mean, this is a phenomenal new way as a marketer for us to reach our consumers, to reach our audience. And so I think it's going to change rapidly, and it's going to be exciting.
Thank you.
I remember like the early days when we were trying to sell mobile advertising. There were a lot of press articles and even people at the agency that said, well, I don't know about mobile advertising. The screen is so small. the banners in the screen, are so small. The truth is the click-through rates on mobile are higher than in the internet. And anyone who has kids know that they can watch, a 2-hour movie on a small phone. So you can definitely click on an ad.
We, in the last 2 months of Veo, we've seen an unbelievable level of engagement that starts with that push notification that you've seen. And so, we were testing it. I mean, we had some theories in mind when we launched, and what we've seen is that push as a way to get people to engage is incredibly effective. And so it'll be interesting to see how that evolves as well. Here we have a few minutes left, I think a little less than 10 minutes. So why don't we open it up to you guys? And do you have any questions for the panelists? Are there microphones?
We've done it in Spanish, but I mean the technology exists. You can do it in any language you want. It depends on what the customer wants.
The app is in Spanish, yes, and it does you can link through to the mobile site, which is in Spanish and English. So like I said, that app was pretty early to market. And the shift was then to focus on the mobile.com, which does in fact have bilingual capabilities. If we were to revise our app in the future, language would definitely be taken into consideration. But I think what we're finding too, I mean, you mentioned an interesting point about the millennials and younger Latinas. Language is not an easy one to tackle, and we talk about it a lot on our team. What I continue to think about is I am trying to reach the bicultural Latina. She is bilingual, she is comfortable in both languages. And so to that extent, really what we try to focus more on is the content and the message. So are we culturally relevant versus the language? But I mean, when you do have to think about the context of the different environments. So like an app, being competitive with English language apps, I mean, that could be an area where we would maybe choose English. We do mixed languages on our Facebook channel. Our Pinterest strategy is all in English. We've kind of started to tailor based on the platform or the environment.
If I can add, here it goes back to the cost of spending around app experience acquisition. What we ended up doing almost as a compromise is language is dependent on what you set up on your phone. So that's how Veo is. So if you set up your phone in Spanish, Veo will all be in Spanish. If your phone is set up in English, it will be in English. And it's not ideal, it's not perfect, because we know that there are many Spanish speakers whose phone is in English, but they would rather consume content in Spanish. It's just, it's this sort of cost equation in this sort of testing world. Any other questions? Yeah?
What's the role of the carriers in order to deliver all this content and all these apps that you guys are developing? Like, seamless? Or, like, for example, I have a Windows phone versus an iPhone versus a whatever, and maybe the carrier, like, is it all seamless, or is the carriers have any role in the development of all this technology?
I mean, it's seamless, right? I mean, it's the carrier actually, they actually want to get into the business of companies like Sprint. They actually have a mobile ad network themselves, and they can sell ads through a network. But I mean, the truth is, it goes through the internet, right? So you actually do not need the carrier. But the carrier obviously has a lot of information. So actually, I think Sprint can add value to a change because they do have a lot of information about location, about the user. Because especially here in the US Hispanic market, most phones are postpaid. In Latin America, most phones are prepaid. There's very few information on the user, but here they do have a lot, so they can actually add a lot of value. And some companies are doing that. But you don't need them, but if you use them, I think they add value.
The other implication is that you have to develop for every phone type. It's a whole new development. So Android, iPhone, these are all new, different development investments, which make a big difference. There was one more question. Sorry, Jennifer.
No, that's good.
Meaning Android versus iPhone? It's a great question. The answer is no. For us, we want to make it available to all. There is, I think, higher penetration in Android from a Hispanic community perspective, but we invest the same in both. I don't know if you've seen anything.
I mean, I think if you do HTML5, like the mobile web, and then you do iOS and Android, you're not fully covered, but you're covered 95% of your audience probably.
From an app perspective, what do you think is a category that is growing the most among Hispanics? What are they looking for when they download it?
So we've done a lot of research on that, and it's social. Social first. By far, with the usual suspects there around Facebook and so forth. Gaming, I would say, is second, and then there's shopping and couponing third. Those are the three, I think, top destinations that come to mind. Shopping and couponing.
What role do you think music and entertainment, especially with Latinos, how does it drive, for downloads and in terms of just the overall network? Because I've seen in the past, that music is a form of entertainment. It keeps people at mobile. But what other ways can we find to utilize entertainment to tie in other brands and ad services?
Well, we represent Pandora, so we actually target US Hispanics on Pandora. The targeting might not be 100% perfect because there are American people who are not Hispanics, but they may like, Spanish music. But no, I mean, there's a humongous amount of traffic. It's growing a lot. I mean, people, to connect their phones to the cars on Bluetooth and listen to, Pandora or Spotify, hours and hours. I mean, I don't know how to respond to your question. It's growing. We're seeing a lot of traffic there. And it's a great avenue to connect users when they're sort of passionate about the culture. I think music is one of the sort of Hispanic, if I look at my daughter who's 15 and her media behavior, I think music is one of the things that she actually listens to Spanish music. But she's 15, she doesn't watch like Univision or Telemundo. But music is definitely a way that Hispanics connect with the culture.
I think it's a phenomenal opportunity, especially for me as I think about music and food. We have a program branded under Que Rica Vida. It's more of an in-store program, but called Musica y Sabor. And so music is actually an area we've been exploring a lot as a team. I think it's yet another way to really connect with that consumer. And to Victor's point, I mean, it kind of crosses that language piece, right? So then you're not dealing with these questions about language, but you're just reaching the consumer through a pure passion point on the device that they have with them all the time. Yeah, so we've been testing some things in music. We offer, like, one thing that we've been doing is sending our email database, like, free music download codes on their birthday as a part of this program. And I just look at both the open, the click-through, and then the subsequent redemption rates of that program, and it's particularly high. So music resonates.
So I'm getting the signal here that time is out. So Jennifer and Victor's, thank you very much for for joining us today, and thank you very much for joining us as well.
Thank you.